Let me ask you something. If someone handed your 21-year-old self a $10 million check, what would you have done with it? And be honest. Exactly. Now imagine that moment happening to your kids, because one day it will. And the question isn't, should I leave them money? The real question is, will it ruin them if you do? Hi, this is Nareena from Wall Street and Private Equity Insider, where I show you the power moves behind quiet money. Today, we are talking about one of the most sensitive, unspoken fears among high net worth parents. Legacy failure, not an investment failure, not tax failure, not legal failure. I'm talking about the kind of failure that happens when your child inherits everything you built and doesn't have the emotional, mental, or moral tools to carry it forward. This video is for those of you sitting on real wealth, maybe 5 million, 25 million, even more, and quietly wondering, will my kids actually be ready for this? Let's break it down. No fluff, no lectures, just truth, tools, a bag of chips, and real conversation.
Do you believe that money should be able to pass between parents and kids?
Able, sure, it's your decision, but there are obviously downsides. And I'm sure, I hope it's a long time from now, that I'll leave my kids some money, not a lot. I love the Buffett quote where he says, leave your kids enough money so that they can do anything, but not so much money that they can do nothing. That I think is really important. I want to use whatever money I've saved to give my kids the best opportunity of building the life that they want, but not so much money that they are forced to live the life that I want for them.
The truth no one wants to say. Here's a stat that should stop every parent in their tracks. Only 25% of family wealth makes it to the second generation, 10% survive to the third, and just 5 make it to the fourth. Let that sink in. If you've built a business, stock portfolio, rental empire, family office, just know, without a real legacy strategy, it's statistically gone in 30 years.
Uh-oh!
And it's not because your kids are bad, it's because wealth plans are transactional. Real legacy is relational, and it's not just about the assets, it's about the mindset to steward them. Let's talk about what ultra successful parents are really thinking, but rarely say out loud. Did I make life too easy? You protected them so well, they never had to struggle, but now you wonder, did that strip away their grit? Will this money divide them? Sibling rivalries, in-laws, legal battles. You've seen the headlines. You're terrified of becoming one. Do they even have the wisdom to handle it? At 25, would you have been ready? You see the predators circling, shady advisors, bad deals, emotional manipulation. Will they have purpose or just a lifestyle? You want them to build, not just consume. What if they marry the wrong person? You don't want their last name on your balance sheet, but wealth makes them a target. And if you're like many of my clients, you come from nothing. You built your life through risk, resilience, and grit. Now, you're sitting on this empire and silently wondering, can they carry the weight of it?
Here's a 5-question finance test all parents need to have with their kids.
If your kids don't know these 5 things, you're setting them up for failure. This is my daughter, Dahlia. Dahlia, what is compounding interest?
Interest on top of interest? What?
What's the rule of 72?
Take 72, divide it into any interest rate, and that'll let you know how many years it's going to take for your W money.
What's the 10-20 rule?
For emergencies, you need 10 times your monthly expenses saved up, 20 times your annual salary to retire.
Well, how much interest you have to get to beat taxes and inflation?
6.2%.
And how much interest does the bank give us?
-1.
Here's what giving unprepared kids a fortune looks like. You hand them the keys to a Ferrari on a rainy night with no seatbelt, no brakes, no GPS, and you say, good luck. They crash. not because they're bad, but because they were never shown how to drive wealth. And when that crash happens, it doesn't just destroy money. It destroys confidence, it fractures relationships, it breaks identity, and it often rips families apart.
Money destroys families sometimes when there's too much of it. When a family member comes to me and says, look, I need money. I want to borrow money from you. And I recommend this to anybody that's dealing with this problem. I say to them, I don't want to lend you any money. I'm going to give you money, and I never want it returned. But our contract between each other now is you never ask again.
Let's talk about one of America's most powerful and complicated wealth legacies, the Pritsker family. Founders of the Hyatt Hotel empire, this family built a multi-billion-dollar dynasty, one of the wealthiest in U.S. history. But behind the fortune was a legacy war no estate planner could have predicted. J. Pritsker, the visionary patriarch, had a clear plan: build an empire and pass it down. But after his death, the third generation cousins who barely knew each other suddenly became multimillionaires. And with that came bitter lawsuits, public betrayals, family factions, and the sale of multiple businesses meant to last for generations. One family member called it a slow motion car crash. Some went on to do remarkable things, like Penny Pritsker, who became the U.S. Secretary of Commerce. Others burned through wealth in silence or walked away completely. The lesson: love and wealth alone don't protect your legacy. Without shared purpose, structure, and communication, even the most sophisticated estate plan cannot protect you from internal collapse. Now, let's look at the other side of the coin, the Rockefellers. The name alone conjures power, oil, and influence. But what's truly extraordinary isn't how much they made, it's how much they kept. John D. Rockefeller was America's first billionaire, and yet he didn't just build wealth, he built a system. Rather than leaving a fortune to be divided up, the Rockefellers created family trusts to manage assets across generations, regular family meetings with agendas and shared decisions, education requirements, and philanthropic engagement, a governance model with long-term vision and legacy stewardship. The result? Over 150 descendants across 6 generations, many of whom still gather for family summits to this day. They co-manage foundations, they serve in public office, they invest together. They share not just money, but mission. And here's what makes it work. They don't just treat wealth as an inheritance. They treat it as a responsibility. Contrast that with the Pritskers. Same opportunity, same resources, very different outcomes. And that's the point. Legacy doesn't live in a will. It lives in conversations, cultures, and continuity. The Rockefellers invited their heirs into a story. The Pritskers inherited a fortune without a foundation. That's the difference between dynasty and disaster.
What is the Waterfall Method? The Waterfall Method is every single individual of the Rockefeller family got a very large life insurance policy put on them. The beneficiaries of those life insurance policies always tied back to the trust. And then inside of the trust was a cash value life insurance policy, which is used as the family bank. Now the family bank is inside the trust, so it acts as like a family vault. Now all the family members can take loans from the cash value life insurance throughout their whole life. When they die and pass away, that death benefit pays it all back, therefore replenishing all the funds that they use throughout their life. And with every single generation, the family trust just keeps getting poured in with more and more and more and more money, therefore making the family richer and more powerful, therefore creating generational wealth.
Every ultra-wealthy parent fears raising an entitled heir. But here's the truth. Gratitude isn't taught. It's modeled. You can't helicopter your way into humility. You show them. The families who've preserved wealth for 5 or 6 generations all have one thing in common. They invite their kids into the story. They don't just hand over assets, they hand down agency, responsibility, purpose. One of the best public examples, Warren Buffett. Despite being one of the richest men in the world, Buffett famously does not give his kids unlimited wealth. Instead, he gave them a strong sense of purpose, access to education, the challenge to make a difference on their own terms. He told them, "You should leave your children enough so they can do anything, but not so much that they can do nothing." Rather than billions, he gave them a platform. Susan became a child advocate and philanthropist. Peter became a musician and author. Howard became a farmer and global humanitarian. They weren't just beneficiaries. They were brought up in as stewards. That's the blueprint. So what can you do today to avoid becoming another cautionary tale? Here are 5 legacy moves you can start now. Write your legacy eulogy. What do you want your kids to say about you when you're gone? Install guardrails, not handcuffs. Flexible trust structures guide your kids without smothering them. Start the roots and wings talk. Share your struggles, your failures, your grit. That's the legacy. Host a family council weekend. One weekend of honest talk can prevent decades of dysfunction. Do the hopes and fears exercise. Have your kids write down their fears and hopes about money. You do the same and compare. The results will blow your mind because this isn't just about transferring money. It's about transferring wisdom. Your kids don't need you to hand them everything. They need you to hand them the tools to build something better. That's how dynasties are built. Not through trust funds alone, but through trust, conversations, and legacy systems. If you want the behind-the-scenes strategies the ultra-wealthy use, from tax-free liquidity to incentive trusts to family councils, then follow me right now and get early access to Titan Brief, my weekly show where I break down capital, cash flow, and clean exits. We don't do fluff here. We do legacy engineering. I'll see you on the other side.